Hey everyone, how are you doing today? Just as promised, I'm gonna do just a well, probably not too short video, but we're talking a little bit about, my thoughts on Harvestella today after about probably 50, 60 hours of playtime. Admittedly, 15 or so of those hours or close to it, probably between 12 and 15 are just the stream. So that's, playing stuff that I've played through on a second playthrough. But you can see I'm in winter on my main playthrough. Year one still. Um, Anyways, what are my thoughts on it? Is it good? Is it bad? Well, kind of the short answer is neither. There's that old joke, phrase, I think it's from the Animaniacs. It ain't half bad, but it ain't half good neither. And that's kind of my thoughts on this. It's ultimately it comes down to it's disappointing. For those who aren't aware, this is made by Square Enix. Yes, that's Square Enix. But Final Fantasy is not the only huge name JRPG that they're known for. I mean, they own Dragon Quest. That's, two-thirds of the holy trinity of JRPGs, the third being the Megaten franchise owned by Atlas. But part of the problem with this, and I could go on about others, they've got, so many other good titles, The World Ends With You, Chrono Trigger, etc. They know JRPGs. And admittedly, this is their first foray into the hybrid with the farming, which, you know, it's okay, but it's disappointing coming from that pedigree. Um, and I'm going to talk about why I feel that during this episode. You kind of see me coming back and forth here. One of the things I want to talk about is just how much the interface spoils things for you. And some of it is small, like here you've got your crafting table, and you can see you've got the you got your category here on the top left, which is everything, and then you got okay, here's your stuff you can use out in the fields, and your stuff for the farm, and then there's this third category, which on mine I haven't unlocked, but that tells me that there's a whole other category of craftables later. It's the same over here with the kitchen, where you've got one, you're divided by cities, Lethe, Shatola, that's Nimia, Shatola, Argent, and then there's a fifth one, which I have unlocked. So like, oh yeah, okay, well, there's more past whatever. You know, Even when you first unlock the job classes, you can see that there's a total of 12 wedges in the circle. And this is one of two things. The other being Arya's not leveling up her effectively, we'll call it the story just calls them character class or character quests, I believe. Let's see what they're called. Yeah, they're character quests for achieving characters, but she levels her up automatically as you complete story quests. Well, there's a point that I've passed already in my playthrough where you're confronting this character who's been built up to be the big bad. And from the fact that, as you can, just like you can see here, you still have two job role, that you haven't unlocked, and that she hasn't maxed out her things. So okay, this isn't it. The game is trying to build this up to be, this is the big final battle. It's not. And that's a spoiler if I'm going to get with it, but that kind of happens throughout. But speaking of those, like the character classes, they're the best way to describe them is for those who are familiar with the Persona series, they're like social links or confidants for Persona 5. That's the only one you play. Um, and that's not a bad thing, but just like with how Persona 3, where they first that came out with them, and how that's the worst ones, but going throughout the series because it's when they were first starting and first getting used to them, and as each game progressed, they got better and better at writing the stories and fitting with the themes that they wanted to do. This one is, because it's their first attempt, they're not that great. They're okay. Um, Likewise, I mean, the music, I make fun of it every single playthrough. You can hear it as I'm playing here, messing around. It's nice. It's okay. It's there. It's not, this is not the kind of game that I would go buy the soundtrack for. This isn't, and there's lots of games that you have great soundtracks. Think of the iconic music for things like Legend of Zelda. We all know many of those songs. Stardew Valley. There are people who listen to the Stardew Valley music just while they work to make it more, entertain, seem more like they're playing doing shares in the game. Persona. Everyone's going on raves about the Persona music. This is just kind of there. Um, and when this was still just the demo phase, the performance wasn't great and all that, but the graphics and performance are okay. It's not bad. I've never seen it really drop the frame rate. If it does, it's very minimal, you know. So there's nothing horrible there, but it's not great. It kind of goes to those early complaints that people had about, character customization. It's like, well, it's very much a Square Enix style. You have that more pencil drawn style for things, and it's trying to go with the graphics you can see for yourself. It's okay. It's not bad. It's not the phenomenal visuals of, again, other titles that Square Enix releases. And, you know, there's two extremes there. There's the ones like a lot of the Final Fantasies, which are trying to be more and more hyper realistic, and then you've got ones like The World Ends With You, which goes with a very cartoony anime, very specific art style. It's not trying for realism, but it nails that. This one is trying for a kind of closer to the realism, but it's not a good touch on it. It's trying to be a strange blend between the two, leaning more towards realism. And that's kind of my overall opinion of this game. It's trying to be multiple things, like a hybrid of a lot of things. For example, it's trying to be a hybrid of a action JRPG with the farming life sims. And in all these cases, it's kind of like it doesn't bring enough to the table in any of the things that it's trying to be, I think. You know, let's talk the farming life sim elements. Everybody compares it, of course, to things like Stardew Valley and especially Rune Factory, which is kind of the example of that hybrid. Um, it doesn't learn from them, though. Let's take example here. Oh, just stop now. Trying to catch that. Here are your two barns. You have one for your, what are these called? The Woolums? And one for your Clef Owls. That's it. You buy one, it lets you get 3 of that respective creature type. You buy your upgrades, your next upgrade brings you to 6 of your respective whatever it is. That's it. It's not like Stardew Valley where unlocking the next tier upgrade up gets you more livestock options. With the coop, you unlock the first level and yeah, you get chickens. But then you unlock the next tier and you get, I think it's ducks. And then the third tier is rabbits. You know, it's, this is your chicken XP. You get more chickens. And yes, Rune Factory does that as well. But the thing is, Rune Factory, you have such a wide variety of monsters that you tame. You don't buy them, you tame them out in the wild. And not some of them you can use in battle. Others, they actually produce goods for you for your upgrading and doing your farm stuff. So upgrading the size of your barns actually matters. Here, it's like, yep, I'm going to get more eggs or more milk. That's it. All you do is you go out, you put food, feed in the things, and we'll show it here. Literally, the whole thing with them is you wake up, great. Let me come in here and get my feed. Go to my storage box, feed. You come around and you pet them. You put more feed in the box. You pick up whatever their drop is. In the case of chickens, that you might find feathers over here like these. You put your feed in the box. You get your eggs, pet, pet. And I am done with them for the entire day. That's it. It's very simplistic. It's not, Harvest Moon / Story of Seasons where you have, some other things you might do with them, like, breeding them or anything. These don't breed as far as I can tell. That's it. I'm done. And then I come over here and I sell or I do something with the stuff I've got. That's the entirety of it. And likewise, you're farming. Well, I'm at the point where I have sprinklers, so especially since it's winter, I'm not doing much with them. But you've got your trees. These ones, big ones that take up 4 spaces, you get 3 drops every 2 days. The other ones that take up just 1 space, you loot daily. That's the extent of it. You got your crops. All you do is water them. There's no fertilizer. You just level up your farm from doing the things you were going to do, like harvesting crops. And so you only get your 2 qualities. Again, comparing this to Rune Factory and Stardew. Okay, I gotta stop doing that because we're gonna keep hearing her. Stardew, you have, your normal silver, gold, and iridium qualities. And with Rune Factory, you have levels 1 through 10 of everything. Okay, let me finish these. But yeah, I mean, even this. Yep, I am mass harvesting. That's the extent of that. Um, so it's not a drastically detailed farming sim. And yeah, I've been the first to admit that. It leans more heavily to the JRPG side. Okay, great, let's compare it. Final Fantasy. No, it's straight up. I mean, this is same company, but this is not Final Fantasy or Dragon Quest. It doesn't have, for one, I don't think it has the depth of story of either of them. But I'll leave that to you guys to judge. But your mechanics to it, yeah, it's kind of closer to Final Fantasy. I've made that remark several times of how it's kind of similar to some of the Final Fantasies with the job class system, and you come in here and you equip your 3. But it's not great. You know, compare it to an action JRPG like the Tales series. The combat of this is nowhere near complex enough. I mean, we'll come over here to, let's pick a dungeon that everyone's seen from my stream, the Jade Forest. You unlock it at the start of chapter 3. The monsters here aren't on by par, but whatever. This is, you don't get great combos for your combat. Like Tails is built on combos and using all your abilities. This one, I come out here. Okay, here we go. Here's some guys. I swing my swords, or I do this ability, which freezes me in place until it does its thing. It exists. It's not complicated. Once I've unlocked certain classes, or the dash ability on certain classes, for example, we'll take a look at, since I'm oh, here, a fighter. You have the step ability that gives you a dash, which means that when I do my run button, I can do that kind of like that's my combat dash. But it also does that anytime I want to try and run. And running, as you can see, doesn't really do much either. The mechanics behind this are just not perfectly there. And even for a more drawn out fight, let's go find. Okay, over here, there's a fear real quick this way. Something that'll take me a little bit longer to fight than just these guys that I'm beating. You can see the combat is not that in depth of something like the Tale series. So it's failing in the mechanics of both series it's trying to be. It's not really comparing well to um, the combat of, for example, some of its counterparts. Even the social link aspect of this, they don't call it social links, they just call it character quests. But like I said, they're not good. It is what it is, but they're not terrible either. So don't think that I'm dissing on it. It's just this game could have been so much more with the pedigree that it has. This isn't an indie title put together by someone who's been working you know in their basement as a labor of love. That's Stardew Valley, which is exceptional. This is I feel like this is Square Enix trying to uh, adapt to how many of those kinds of titles have been coming out over the last several years because of how big Stardew got and Rune Factory 5 and other things like Graveyard Keeper and so on that are merging those kind of genres. So they're like, hey, we're one of the big names in JRPGs. Why don't we try our hands at it? And I feel they could have done so much better. So, I mean, that's what it is. Those are my thoughts on it. Is it a terrible game? No, don't make again, I'm not gonna say this is a terrible game, but that's the thing is one of the reasons I don't want to do scores on this is okay, let's say I did the 5 categories, each one of a 1 to 20 kind of thing, so that all 5 categories total out to 100 points, just like Switch Up does. I would probably put this in the 60 to 70 range, you know. And there are things here that I don't complain about, really, but I can see that other people would complain about them. For example, I talked early on about in the my stream series how people complain that there's no voice acting, but you're hearing voice acting as I'm playing, and that's how it works throughout this whole thing. Is it's that inconsistent? Yeah, it's there during combat or whatever, but it's not there during the story scenes. And yes, there are other games that do that. Rune Factory 5 doesn't have a lot of voice acting during the story scenes. There's a couple near the end, near the beginning. There's a few near the end, but for the most part, it's read dialogue. Okay, cool. But I mean, you hear this one; it is constant when you're in combat, but nowhere else. And that's just poorly designed how they did that. You know, I'm not saying Rune Factory is good with it either, but this one, I don't know, something about it just bugs me with how they do it. Um, and it's not as bad for me as it is for some people. Some people are like, "Oh, geez, it's horrible. They should have it." Blah blah blah. And I see their point. This is Square Enix. This is a big name company. They're expecting something probably more like how the Mass Effect series was, where everything, even the little side characters that you're walking past have voiced dialogue. And, I don't expect that either. But consistency would be good. Persona series doesn't have voice dialogue for everything. Most of the social links, for example, ranks 2 through 9 are rarely, if ever, voiced. You have a few that are because they're like the story ones. Um, but most of them, those ranks, you get voice acting on the first rank, voice acting on the last rank, and everything in between is not voice acted. That's fine, but there's a consistent system there. All their main story stuff is voice acted. So that complaint that people make about it, I understand. Um, I've talked about the visual detail; you can see it, But the voice acting goes with the sound and audio. It's the music. It's there. It's nice. But I've said it before. This is a game that I could perfectly be fine playing it here on my Switch, turning the audio off completely, and go sit out in the living room with family and watch TV or a movie or something like that. This is one of those perfect games for that, and there are good games for that, but it's something that's kind of a knock against the game as well. Um, Stardew Valley, I could do that as well, but when I do have the audio, it's good, it's exciting, it's fun. Okay, maybe not exciting, but you get the idea. It's energetic, it fits the theme of the game. Listen to this. It's trying to be nice and calming, but this is an action RPG that's focusing more on the RPG than it is the farming and life sim elements. The music doesn't fit. Um, so I don't know. Those are my thoughts. It's okay. It's not great. It's not bad. I just think it's kind of mediocre. It could be done a lot better than it was. I will definitely continue with it as, you know, the stream continues and so on until we finish it, and maybe even after that to a little of the post game to see what is there beyond marriage. But it's definitely not a game I'm going to be building this channel on. I think the Rune Factory series might be a better central to it, especially since we're getting 3S next year. But it's. I remember when this game was announced and people were going on like the Rune Factory and similar subreddits going, oh my God, is this going to be destroying Rune Factory? Is this going to destroy Stardew Valley, etc., etc.? Because it's Square Enix, and I could tell you right away when I saw it, the first, the Nintendo Treehouse that I saw it in, that it wasn't going to do it. It was very clear looking at it that it was more like I described it as Final Farming Fantasy, and that kind of stands still, but it's. Oh, I put the wrong words there. It's not a good Final Fantasy, in my opinion. There are much, much better Final Fantasies out there, and the quality of Final Fantasy is going to vary from one to one. There's plenty of Final Fantasies that people hate on. Final Fantasy 13, for example. Um, I don't hate on Final Fantasy 13, but I can acknowledge that it's not one of the better ones. It is what it is, When you compare that to something like 10, or even 10 versus 10 2, there's definitely quality differences in the Final Fantasy products. So yeah, this about being the best it could have been. Okay, that's great. Let them try for a second attempt at this. I don't want them to be like, well, that's it. This is the end of our attempts at this genre. I think Square Enix can do this well if they take the time and the effort and they really study what makes this particular hybrid genre blend work so well. But until they take that time, they're gonna just keep doing trial and error, and not get it right. So those are my thoughts. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments section below. Or again on Twitter or the Discord, join in. So I will catch you guys this weekend. We will continue our playthrough of Harvey in the Harvestella or the Harvestella Host Club. I don't know if I like the I think I like Harvestella Host Club is the better name better. It's the one I've been using. But for now, you guys have a good one and let me know what you think. All right. Bye.